never hit a woman. My hands have never struck a woman.
In December 2023, Jonathan Majors was convicted of 2 misdemeanor assault and harassment charges by a New York jury.
Actor Jonathan Majors arrested today, accused of attacking a woman in a New York City apartment.
Shortly after the conviction, he sat down with ABC News for an interview to discuss his case and maintain his innocence for all charges. By April 2024, Jonathan was sentenced to a year-long domestic violence intervention program where he would face jail time only if he failed to complete the 52 weeks of in-person mandated counseling. And more recently, in June 2024, at the Hollywood Unlocked Impact Awards, Iyanla Vanzant presented Jonathan Majors with the Perseverance Award, where the recipient is one who has shown that no matter what adversity they face, they will continue to aspire to inspire. Y'all, I have so many thoughts about this. My message today is going to be a simple one. False humility is dangerous. It's so dangerous. But to give a warning from the top, this video think piece is not really about Jonathan Majors. This is about us. Majors is going to be our case study, but you and me, we are the students. Now, I can't tell you how many times I have sat down to record this video and can't because there's always a new development every few minutes.
She's an angel. She's held me down like a Coretta, you know?
So come out,
So I'll start off with what I remember about my first time seeing Jonathan Majors in The Last Black Man in San Francisco. That's when I first met Majors as an artist and casual observer. But Grace Jabari met Jonathan Majors during his ascent to the A-list on the set of the Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Have I killed you before?
And this is where I find Jonathan's first major mistake. A mistake that many of us make when we're already on a mission. Distraction in the form of whatever it is we most desire. With Jonathan coming in as a Marvel villain, this was supposed to set him up as a major movie star. Not only would it come with global stardom, but it also would have a check to match.
The level of difficulty is high, you know, and the character is quite high profile.
But Majors forgot the path that he was on. He made an error in judgment, one in which he would end up in a toxic love match with his then girlfriend and become a form of a trauma bond at best and a manipulative, controlling paradigm at worst. And I'm not at all insinuating that it was all Grace's fault. In fact, I would argue that Jonathan saw what he needed to see and proceeded anyway due to his ego. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. If Jonathan Majors struggled to love himself or struggled with self-worth and therefore struggled to love others well, then his distraction was this relationship, a test that he failed. Now that's pretty harsh because I do not know Jonathan Majors personally, so I'm gonna use him as an example, but I would really ask that you separate him from the person versus the principle. Meaning this is meant to be a parable, not an assessment of him as an individual who, once again, I don't know. So many disclaimers. I really hope y'all eat me up in the comments because I'm ready to argue. Now, my point is that discernment when you are on purpose and you have a call in your life is so important. Developing it when you are unknown is a privilege. And I know I'm speaking to somebody who is watching all of the Jonathan Majors hoopla, praying for his return or maybe praying for him to get help. You might be watching this more cynically and saying, nah, that lady was to blame. She lied. She was the abuser. She chased him down the street. She targeted him to end his career. Let me caution you against looking for simple answers to complex problems. Is this a true Samson and Delilah story? I'm not so sure, but let's draw some parallels. In the Bible, there's an Old Testament story about Samson. He was set apart by God from birth and was destined to begin the deliverance of Israel from the hands of the Philistines. Samson's miraculous strength was found in his long hair, which symbolized his vow to God to remain uncut while the Lord was with him in every fight against his enemies. But Samson had a very big weakness: women. And when the Philistines sent Delilah to uncover the secret to Samson's strength, she seduced him into a false sense of security, cut off his hair in his sleep, and left him defenseless to his enemies. Now, the reason I'm using the story is because the Kids Bop version of this may lead you to believe that it was all Delilah's fault that Samson was captured. She manipulated him, used his secret for her people's gain, and took down a powerful hero in the Israelite camp. But the truth is actually more nuanced. Because just like Delilah played her role and caught this man off guard, Samson wasn't vigilant to protect his vow to the Lord. He pursued Delilah, which is explicitly against what God told him to do, and got played in the process. In other words, he played himself. And similarly, Jonathan Majors' ex has taken a ton of heat for her role as people label her a liar, a gold digger, a socialite looking for her 15 minutes of fame. We can't say with absolute certainty that she isn't any of those things, but what we can say, Jonathan Majors and Grace Jabari were in a toxic relationship as evidenced by not only audio recordings of his bizarre behavior.
I'm a great man. A great man. I am doing great things.
But also the text messages. Text messages which I think were the most damning to the type of control that was being used against each party.
Majors writes, "It's just fake. And I fear you have no perspective of what could happen if you go to the hospital. They will ask you questions. And as I don't think you actually protect us, it could lead to an investigation, even if you do lie and they suspect something." Jabari responds in part, "I will tell the doctor I bumped my head. If I go, I'm going to give it one more day, but I can't sleep and I need some stronger painkillers. That's all. Why would I want to tell them what really happened when it's clear I want to be with you?"
Scapegoating doesn't solve the root issue of this case. Because while we were typing our best armchair defenses in the court of public opinion, John was trying to outrun his pattern. Now, trigger warning for discussions about domestic violence. The case revealed a toxic pattern of John's consistent manipulation and control. Abuse that had little to do with the physical fights and more to do with forcing compliance. Now, he being convicted of reckless assault in the 3rd degree and harassment, which is a misdemeanor and a violation, but he was found innocent on the other 2 charges that said he intentionally tried to cause harm to Grace in their altercation. But we have to remember that domestic violence is not just about hitting someone. DV can also be psychological. So here are some examples. Isolating a person from their friends, family, colleagues. Stalking their movements or controlling how they spend their time. Monitoring social media accounts or tracking their phone. Taking control over aspects of a person's life, such as where they can go, who they can see, depriving them access to support services such as healthcare, making threats or using intimidation to force a change of behavior or choices, damage to property such as destruction of household goods and valuable personal items. And the list goes on. Now, just off the top of my head, there was evidence of at least 4 of those from both parties, but Majors is the one on the chopping block. And recordings, really quick, do you know how consistent the things you say are, that if someone can trap you into an audio recording, there has to be some level of predictability when there's a pattern to your behavior. The pattern that helps an actor lock into a PR pivot even when there's no PR team to speak of. The pattern that holds a Bible in the courtroom and a Coretta Scott stand-in to your left to catch all the criticism downwind. And speaking of standing in, Meagan has awful timing. The Tyler Perry movie Divorce in the Black just dropped, starring Meagan Good and Corey Hardict, which I haven't seen because
Tyler Perry.
And interestingly enough, the movie is not just about divorce, but domestic violence.
I don't condone domestic violence at all, 1000%. And for me, I just have to leave it there, because anything else that I say can be taken a different way or taken however somebody may want to take it. So I'll just be very clear in saying that's something I do not condone.
So recently, Meagan's been dropping some insight into her own journey of resetting her life and her relationship with Jonathan Majors in various interviews.
You know, we have been in a space of a bubble. You know, we come outside when we have to and we need to, but we've really existed inside this bubble, and it's been wonderful. And it's been very happy, and it's crazy because even with everything going on, this is the happiest I've been in a long time.
Admittedly, I've only seen the handful of clips and interviews that Meagan has done on the circuit around her relationship and even on her previous marriage to Devon Franklin, but I'm not going to spend too much time here. I just wonder why on earth this would be appealing to her at this time. I think about what Pastor Jerry Flowers says about recovery. I'm going to paraphrase, but he says in one of his sermons that when you've been injured and you're going through a period of healing and recovery with the Lord, you have to be careful how you move in that recovery. When the doctor gives you aftercare instructions, you're supposed to follow them to a T, because depending on how you move after surgery, you could either re-injure yourself or prolong your healing journey. And that has been so freeing to me personally. So when I look at Meagan Good and I think about the parable of all of this, we have to allow ourselves to be very careful about the environments that we enter in after we've gone through healing. And I'm not sure why she would get so close to this flame. And Meagan Good says that Jonathan tried to discourage her from dating him. She even says that her close friends cautioned her about moving forward with him.
At the end of the day, one thing I know is I can always look myself in the mirror when I trust my spirit, when I trust God, when I ask God, and when I, move to the beat of my own drum. I can always look and say, okay, I'm proud of that. No matter whatever happens, I have peace in my heart and I have harmony in my heart. And it's only when I do something based on someone else saying, well, I think you should do this. And I take everyone I love's opinion and advice into account for sure. But at the end of the day, I'm the one who has to live my life, and I'm the one who has to, get to heaven one day prayerfully and give God an account of what I did. And so I want to be responsible for the choices that I make. And I also want to live the life that I want to live.
Oh, God. Okay, Meagan. Now, what I said about distraction on the way up also applies on that humble elevator on the way down. How we choose to involve the people around us when we're going through a scandal is just as much an indication of our heart posture as when we choose to involve them. The perfectly timed photo op can often backfire if it feels too convenient, too planned. But public displays of affection can make a redemption arc feel less genuine. The proof really has to be in the pudding. And chocolate pudding is a very convenient flavor. But you know one person who lacked convenience? Coretta Scott King. The wife of Martin Luther King Jr., Coretta Scott King, who Majors inappropriately asked his ex to be more like, was not a woman who followed after convenience. She understood PR well, and to stand with Martin knowing his personal and public indiscretions, his unfaithfulness to their marriage, must have been devastating. But Coretta's activism was not acting. It was no monologue or delusion of grandeur. She received no awards for perseverance while her family was threatened and attacked. No sympathy when her husband was traveling and she was raising 4 children and leading a revolution at home. The public support of Martin, the visibility and fashion show was a microcosm of the work she did on his behalf and as a whole wife who was married to this movement. So forgive me for not being impressed when I see how girlfriends continue to tear down and prop up Majors. This is no Tracee Ellis Ross sitcom. It's not funny. It's a pattern. And until we recognize how to steward ourselves, develop self-control, and honor the people around us, a setback will not be the blessing that it should. June 21st, 2024, Tiffany Haddish hosts the Hollywood Unlocked Impact Awards, founded by media personality and love and hip hop star Jason Lee. The Impact Awards were created to honor influencers, celebrities, and icons who have made a lasting impact on the culture. And this was an event honoring Majors with the Perseverance Award for an individual who has shown that no matter what adversity they face, they will continue to aspire to inspire. I hate to say it, but that just sounds like a participation trophy in some elementary school for having the second least amount of absences. But what was particularly interesting about the 17-minute speech that Jonathan Majors gave for the award was Iyanla Vanzant's tribute at the beginning.
As a woman who spent 9 years in an abusive marriage, I am both humbled and honored to present this award, the Perseverance Award, to my brother, Jonathan Majors. God will continue to show you mercy for the excellence that you bring to the mastery of your craft. Despite the opinion of human beings, persevere, my brother, because my friends, mercy and grace, are willing and strong enough to get you to the other side of any cancellation, because God is forgiving.
And this brings me to why I'm making this video. As I said in the beginning, I really want us to look at Majors not just as the human that he is, but as the principle, the parable from which we can learn from. I don't mean to objectify anyone in my essay, but I'm going to make an exception because I think this is incredibly important. Sometimes when we are in the wrong, there are people around us who are well-meaning, who will affirm who we are to support us. They want to love us. And so rather than point out or critique where we've messed up, they will validate us because that's the nice thing to do. They're going to prop us up in our foolishness because they like us or they want to encourage us on our path forward. But the problem with this approach when it comes to a character flaw that has been exposed in such a public way is that the correction, the accountability should be public as well. The accountability should come publicly. The apology should come publicly. And we've gotten into such a routine as the culture that if you love me, you're going to agree with me. You won't say anything negative to me or about me. And negative could even mean the truth. It can mean things we don't want to hear or like to hear. It could mean things that don't feel good in the moment. So rather than tell people, I love you and you're wrong, I support you, but I don't support the behavior, I care about you enough to offend you, we prop up victimhood instead of enticing people towards wholeness. Now, I might have lost some of you, so let me try to make it very plain.
Okay, I am still lost.
What you fall into is an indication of who or what you put your trust in. So if you fall into toxic relationships, it's because you put your trust or your hope in a partner. If you fall to criticism or judgment, it's because you put your trust or your hope in other people's opinions. If you fall because of your ego or your pride, it's because you put your trust in your own ability rather than seeking out help or community, seeking God or seeking support in areas where you're weakened. Ask me how I know. Now, the problem is not Jonathan Majors or Grace Jabari or Meagan Good or Jan Van Zant. The problem is us. We are approaching redemption with favoritism glasses on. We are only seeing people through if we like them or we hate them, rather than in the fruit of their lives. And fruit doesn't lie. It tells you what's going on with the tree. Is the root system deep? Is it shallow? Is it a weak structure? Is it rotten? The fruit will tell you. So a true redemption arc for Majors, or really anyone, any of us who may be experiencing our own personal hell due to our character issues, our flaws, our choices, or our brokenness, a true redemption arc looks like seeing the importance of time and growth. It pursues humility rather than affirmation. It speaks from a place that is desiring to genuinely change and genuinely grow. It sees the setback as an opportunity, not to garner sympathy, not to be seen as a victim of a system or a woman or a man, but rather looks to prevent future, more severe mistakes. The call for authentic growth and humility in our public figures and our celebrities is all well and good, but if we don't call for authentic growth and humility in our own lives, we have completely lost the plot. Your victim mentality does not grow you. Your well-meaning intentions and validation so someone doesn't feel bad about their mistakes, that does not grow them as a person. And I'm not saying that you are going to kick anybody while they're down, right? That's not the goal of this, but you also don't prop them up without the proper recovery, without the proper accountability. This is why people keep repeating the same cycles of toxic behavior, because they never fully heal. They never fully grow or get delivered from their issues. They have so many people, their audience, their stans, their social media followers, blowing smoke up their backside with no actual regard for their soul. I'm deeply moved by creative people, actors, artists, talents who are gifted from God in their skill, but it doesn't matter if we waste it on false humility. And being humbled is not a fun process. It does not feel good. It doesn't usually come with awards or accolades. There are no participation trophies for practicing humility. No one sees you in that place. And that is the point. Some of you who feel like you're tired of being called to be the bigger person, to rise above it, to go high when they go low. You just want to be justified in how you're feeling. I get that. The validation that those other people over there were wrong and they did this to you and it's not your fault and you are not to blame. But what if I were to tell you that the next step is the great grace of when people persecute you, when they don't see you, they don't know who you are, and so you're willing to put in the work to match the inside with the outside. Let's get rid of chips on shoulders. They make for phenomenal art and they make for spiritually bankrupt people. My goal in talking about the Perseverance Award and Jonathan Majors is not to disrupt what he's working on. I do think that if he gets help for his anger and his control issues and he plugs up some of these wounds of trauma that have led him to this place, I absolutely think that he can right the ship. But I'm actually more interested and prayerful about his heart. I care more that he grow through the experience and not fall into the trappings of this industry, which chews people up and spits them out. I'm also very careful and prayerful about the young lady that was involved with this. I hope she's healing from this experience as well. And of course, Meagan Good and her associations with him and her newfound freedom and Coretta Scott Kingness. For anybody who's watching and wants to consider what I'm saying, please do so with great soberness. And I know this is a heavier video, so I do appreciate you for watching. But I have to ask, what do you think of the Perseverance Award and Jonathan Majors? Let me know in the comments. You know that I love responding to y'all, and I do my best to read them all, so make sure you leave me something. And I'm always super grateful to shout out my Patreon members. I appreciate you all so much. And I would love it if you are watching and you consider subscribing for $5 a month. We have a movie club that we chat and discuss movies over there, as well as extra content. So make sure that you click the link in the description box below. And your girl has an editor now, so I'm shouting them out for helping me with the videos. Y'all are gonna be hearing a lot more from me as we head out of summer into fall. But I will see you in the next one. Bye now.